behalf of Beit David Santon,
Here we are. Hello. We were having a moment of tech problems. Thank you so much, Leslie. It was amusing and also sweet to see you doing your elbow touch. It reminds me so much of the statement that we have that says, in our tradition, the old becomes new and the new becomes holy. And it used to be that we would embrace and kiss one another, and we can't do that. That's the old way, because we want to be around and have our friends around to do that for a long time. And so we touch elbows, we give aerial high fives, and this becomes our holy way of greeting one another. So thank you for bringing us light and bringing us into the current day with your greetings. We turn to page 130 for the beginning of the release. Traditionally, we give ourselves the opportunity to say a psalm for every day of the week, and that allows us to let go of what happened during that time and to become really properly prepared for the beauty that is Shabbat. So we start with Psalm 95. Lechu neranana. Lechu neranana l'Adonai, nari'ah letzor yishenu, nekad b'panav b'todah, b'zmirot nari'ah lo. Let us come into God's presence with praise. Let us raise a shout to God in song, for Adonai is a great God, and in God's hands are the depths of the earth. God is the sea. God made the sea. God is the fish and the plankton and the coral. Come, let us bow down before the intense creativity that is responsible for this world. For Adonai is our God, and we are the people God tends, the sheep, the goats, flocks in God's care. Just as Malachi said, let us keep God's charge this day. We turn to our next psalm. These are in order, by the way. We start with Psalm 95, we work our way to 99 and skip backwards instead of doing 100. So Psalm 96. Shir l'Adonai, shir chadash, shir l'Adonai, kol haaretz, shir l'Adonai, barechu shemo, basaru miyom liyom yeshuato. We sing this beautiful new song to God. We let the heavens rejoice, and the sea and all that's within it, the fields and everything there, all that gather. In case you don't get it, we are in the process of celebrating creation. Bring creation in front of us this day, just as the shepherd watches his flocks as they move into the pen and see all of the beauties that surround us. This brings us, of course, to page 132 for Psalm 97. Adonai malach tagel haaretz yismechu oyim rabim even ve'arpeh tzvivotav tzedek u'mishpat michon riso ohave Adonai sin'ura shomer nefashot chasidav miyad resha'im Yahal Tzikeh Ozaru Hala Tzadik Uli Sharei Lev Simcha Shimru Tzadikim Badonai Hodu Lezecher Kodshahu. Psalm 98. We've moved now from the praise of the creation to the active praise, to our happiness in being able to look at this creation and to see the divine in the creation and to shout out the glory. A psalm. Sing to Adonai a new song, for God has worked wonders. God's right hand, God's holy arm has won God victory. Adonai has manifested God's victory, has displayed God's triumph in the sight of the nations. God was mindful of God's steadfast love and faithfulness towards the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth beheld the victory of our God. Raise a shout to Adonai, all the earth. Break into songs of praise. We turn now to page 135. I want to talk just briefly, as you're reading this psalm, maybe in the background, about the cherubim, because it says at the beginning that the divine is enthroned upon the cherubim. So we've just looked at creation. We've reminded ourselves that the divine is invested with us in our traveling through creation. And at the very end, right? So this is our end of the week psalm. We aren't yet anticipating Shabbat, but we know it's done. We remember this moment or this space, and they're probably the same thing. And that's one of the interesting things about God, that the divine is present in a physical location, but that also is a time. So we can move through time in our physical presence. But there's something about the divine that transcends both presence and time. And the place where we get to experience that was in the Holy of Holies, where the Aron Kodesh was covered with the holy cherubim, the don't know if we want to call them angels. We have different images of angels. We know they were winged. They may have been human figures. They may have had lion figures. They may have had several faces, but the important thing is that their wings reached out over the ark, which is down here below them, reached out to cover the holy items in the ark and to invite down the Holy Spirit of the divine. And so right in that place of the touching of the wings, yes, I'm intentionally, hiding myself so that you can imagine. And I'm so far, we're all so close to God and we're all so far, right? The divine presence hovering just there. You can't quite see it, but you absolutely know it's in that meniscus of presence that we invoke our holy relationship, that we bring down the divine power, that we raise ourselves up. And this psalm really does it for us. This is fashioning the whole of the world and looking at it and bringing the divine into the creation. So it's not just that you paint the painting. You also tell people about the painting you've painted, and you give it to a museum, or you share it with a friend, or you write about it, or you invite somebody to copy it with you, or you teach children how to paint the painting. And in doing so, you also become like our Creator, enthroned upon your own cherubim, because you remove yourselves from the time. You give yourself the option to be carried forth without yourself, and yet with the full and trueness of yourself. Now that's complicated for Friday night when we want to relax. So enjoy the holiness of this moment. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu V'yishtachavu leHakodesh. 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 For our holy and divine one is holy, is present. And that is where we go to recite the Psalm of Praise that is found on page 136. Mizmor LeDavid. Havu l'Adonai bnei Elim, havu l'Adonai kavod va'oz, havu l'Adonai kevod shemo, yishtachavu l'Adonai bechadrot kodesh, kol Adonai al hamayim, el hakavod yirim, Adonai al mayim rabim, kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vayishaber Adonai et arzei Havanon, Vayakidem kemo egel, Lebanon v'Sirion kemo ben Remi. Kol Adonai chotzef lavot esh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kodesh, Kol Adonai yecholel ayalot, Vayechesof ya'arot, Uvehechalo kulo omer kavod. Adonai lemavu yashav, Vayeshev Adonai melech leolam, Adonai host le'amo yitain, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. May we all be blessed with peace, and may we welcome into our hearts the bride of peace, the bride of Shabbat, the bride of holiness, the Chadodi. Let us call out to our beloved as we turn to page 138 and allow the choir to inspiringly take us into this holy evening. Page 148. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro mariv aravim, bechokma poteach sharim, ובתבונה משנה עיתים, ומחליף את הזמנים ומסדר את הכוכבים, בממשלותיהם ברקיע כרצונו. בורא יום ולילה גולד אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור, ומבדיל יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. I'm getting a message, so hang on. We're back on Mizmor Shir. I saw you guys bowing and bending, so I apologize. I thought we had skipped through to the Baruch. So I will go back, and I deeply apologize, to page 140. And that was my fault entirely. It's because I was up late last night doing rabbinic kalat, and I didn't have quite enough sleep. We'll redo the blessing for the evenings. Mizmor shir leyom hashabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulzamer l'shimcha elyon, lahagid baboker chosecha, ve'emunatcha baleilot, alei asur ve'alei navel, alei higayon v'chinor, ki simachtani Adonai b'foalecha, uvma'aseh yadecha aranen, ma gadlu ma'asecha Adonai, ma'od amku machshavotecha, ish be'er lo yeda, v'chasil lo yevin et zot. Back to the choir, whom I can't hear, and this is part of why I made the mistake. Technology issues. For tzaddik katamar, let us stand like the righteous, as palm trees. Tzaddik katamar yifrach. So we have the interesting situation of having made a blessing before it was supposed to be made. And it brings up the notion that we hold in Judaism that we should never make a wasted blessing. You should never, bless your tea and then not drink it. Because then that invokes the holy name of the divine, which we believe has a tremendous amount of power. And we don't ever want to invoke that without needing it or without using it. And I'm going to also suggest that at times when we make mistakes, which I do, assuming you do, there may be some people who don't, and amazing. I will love to learn from you. That perhaps that's actually an intentional thing. And perhaps what needed to happen was that the evening needed to be blessed right then. Who knows? So we won't repeat our blessing since we've already said it. But I want to remind you of the cycle that we're part of, that this prayer brings us into the glory of the end. And that perfect moment where you step back and you say, this is more than good enough. This is what I wanted. I have accomplished what I needed to accomplish. The things I haven't accomplished, they'll wait. Now is time for rest and repose, to bring myself back into frame and to once again prepare for the beauties of the next day. And of course, in this case, those beauties are those of Shabbat. And Shabbat reminds us always of the blessed love that the divine shares with us. And that is what our next prayer, which is found on page 150, is all about. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu B'shokveinu u'v'kumeinu Nasiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha U'v'mitzvotecha Le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu ve'orach yameinu ve'orach yameinu uvahem nege yomam v'layla yomam v'layla le'avatcha al tasya mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We gather our tzitzit and we turn our hearts and our hands and our souls towards the Shema.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך. וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. We continue on page 157 at the top. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Next, we're about to sing Micha Mocha, but before we do so, I'd like to make some comments on that. It's not a prayer that we focus on very much, but I'd like to do that tonight. There's something special about Micha Mocha. What it does is, it reminds us how God is always there to help us. Let me ask you, have you recently stepped off the pavement in front of, or almost in front of a passing car and jumped back in time? God delivered you. Were you about to enter into a business deal and something stopped you, which saved you a lot of money? God delivered you. He's always there. He's always behind you. He's always looking out for you. But we don't appreciate it enough. We take Shomreinu u'matzilenu ata, ki el chanun v'rachum ata, v'shemor tzayteinu u'vo'aenu, l'chayim u'l'shalom. Mei ata v'ad olam, Baruch ata Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. Page 164, the choir will lead us into the tefillah. page 168. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה, רב והושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מריח השמש ומוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך? מלך ממית ומחיה ומשמיע ישוע. נאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. Next page. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. And then we go to the blessing for Shabbat, for creation. אתה קידשת את יום השביעי לשמך. תכלית מעשי שמיים וארץ. וברכתו מכל המים, וקידשתו מכל הזמנים, וכן כתוב בתורתך. The choir will now continue with Ritzay, Ritzay Adonai Eloheinu. She's asking God to find favor with us and with the state of Israel. On page 176, I want to read you just one particular sentence. In the middle of the page it says, "Your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning and noon. O good one, whose mercies never end. O compassionate one, whose kindness never fails. We forever put our hope in you." Just remember those words, we forever put our hope in you, because I'll be returning to that thought in a few moments' time. Instead, we will go to Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav.
pause now for a few moments of silent meditation. Our forefather Abraham led a life of decision-making and of implementing new ideas and new activities. God called on him to do, and he did. Hineni, that famous word, Hineni, means here am I, was his response when he received a summons or call from heaven. Hineni, he said, here am I available. His eyes were opened in Babylon. His eyes were opened in Babylon to the sinfulness around him, and he had to deal with the problems in the commands which he received from the Almighty. He received commands which seem way out of context. He got a command, Lech Lecha, which means get up and go. Nobody told him where, when, how. He just had to do it on blind faith. He'd already accepted the concept of one invisible God, and he had no fear in leaving his homeland to go he knew not where. He set himself the target of being a blessing to mankind by living a righteous life and by giving others the knowledge of the one God. The activation of the bris, the circumcision, a strange custom indeed, was a test of his ability to prevail upon others to perform this ritual, apart from accepting it for himself and his own family. His faith in the Almighty was sorely tested in the almost sacrifice of Isaac, with most commentators praising his courage. We've not had to go very far to see how his descendants were likewise tested and prevailed. Jacob wrestled with an angel. Joseph endured incarceration. Moses declined to accept his task, but then eventually he did so. If you peel off the layers, you will see that we Jews have had sterling examples to follow, right down to today. In the last 100 years or so, we've had to fight politicians to assert our demands. Look at the Balfour Declaration of 1917. Britain accepted in principle the homeland of Jews. But how long did it take to happen? We've had to defend our homeland Israel from marauding neighbors. We've had to live through the ghastly Holocaust to gain our homeland finally in 1948, as we all know. If we step back and look at the bigger picture, it seems as if we have had every adversity thrown at us from Abraham onwards, which we have had to contend with to reach our end goal of success in whatever we have striven for. Once we acknowledge this, it makes it more clear why adversity seems to dog us. And that's because of hope. That is what the word hatikva means, hope. Hope has been called a spiritual discipline by some rabbis. Our forefathers carried it like a beacon, and in it they sustained themselves in all adversities. While they were participating in whatever, hope made them be a part in the unfolding of reality. It was hope that kept them going through all bad times. At Tisha B'Av, we look at what has befallen us and we pledge never again. We don't know when our travails will end, but we can, like Abraham, have faith and do what we must and know for sure that collectively we Jews will get through the particular ordeal. This certainly applies to the COVID virus, the COVID pandemic, what with all humanity's abilities concentrating on a universal clue. Rest assured, this will come and these present times will pass. We have absolute precedent for this to happen, ample precedent for this to happen. Todah Le'el, thank the Almighty, because it will happen. Shabbat Shalom. I now call on Sid to join us for the Kiddush, which you'll find on page 122.
ויהי ערב, ויהי בוקר, יום השישי. ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם. ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה. וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו. בשבת קודשו ביאביו רצון הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה וראשית. כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים. בשבת קודשך ביאביו רצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. Thank you, Sid.
Thank you.
Let me shake hands with you.
That's cool. Thanks,
Some
David.
years ago, Sid used to be in our choir. You can see why. It hasn't left you, Sid. Happy to have you intone the Kiddush in that.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We turn now to page 586 for the Aleinu. Ladon hakol, very front of your elbow. Thanks. Page 589. Eternal God, we face tomorrow with hope made stronger by the vision of your realm, a world where poverty and war are banished, where injustice and hate are gone. Teach us more and more to share the pain of others, to heed your call for justice, to pursue the blessing of peace. Help us, O God, to gain victory over evil, to bring nearer the day when all the world shall truly be one. Page 593, reading number 2. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In his hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by his love are we comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. As we turn to page 597, thinking of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who passed away at this season in years gone by, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. Judah Christoph Tubachali, father of Jacob Tubachali, Marcus Weitzman, cousin of Ashley Sweek, Mel Hill, partner of Dr. Kulenthal, Dr. Hugh Benjamin, uncle of Myrna Margot, Nochem Diemant, father of Simon Diemant, Dorothy Sobel, mother of Gerald Sobel, Stanley Cronson, father of Darrell Cronson, Fritz Pearlstein, husband of Sybil Pearlstein, Betty Rebecca Levy, mother of Dr. Arnold Levine, Alec Egnell, father of the late Trevor Egnell, honorary life president of this our shul. And Alec Egnell was grandfather to Warren, Jason, Ashley and Darrell Egnell. Mark Jacobs, nephew of Ivan Walt, and Harry Cohen, father of Pat von Flyman, with Jack Cohen, father of Pam Scher. We recall from Bet David Durban, Derek Shanani, husband of Leah Shanani, and Alta Grower, father of Morris Grower. The following passed away recently: Mari Lou Elf, daughter of Joan Smith, and Michael Grabiner, past chairman of the World Union for Progressive Judaism and leader of the UK movement for Reform Judaism. Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be for blessing, as together we recite Kaddish on page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, v'yomad divrach chirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomeichon, v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'izman kari v'yimeru. Amen. Yehesh me'erabam vorach li'olam u'lomei ulmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadal v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shmei d'kodesha barichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, da'amiram bi'olma v'yimeru. Amen. Yehesh lamarabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimeru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimramav. hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. You may be seated. Thank you to congregants, both virtual and in person, who participated in this service. As year-end holidays are around the corner, we call on congregants to make a donation towards holiday parcels for the 4 ground staff members who will be going home to celebrate the holidays with their families. Please contact the synagogue office should you wish to contribute. These members of staff work in the background, cleaning and maintaining the synagogue and its precincts, and your donations would assist us to show the appreciation of the Bet David family for their dedication and hard work. The South African Holocaust and Genocide Foundation, together with the Goethe Institute and the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, will hold the annual Kristallnacht commemoration on Tuesday, 9 November, this coming Tuesday, at 7 p.m. via Zoom. The keynote speaker is Professor Christopher Browning, Emeritus Professor of History at the University of North Carolina. The Bet David Choir will be contributing to this important event. The Zoom link was distributed to congregants via email and WhatsApp. Registration is essential. Should you need further information, please contact the synagogue office. Tomorrow morning our service will be led by Ian Mann and Rabbi Salomo and starts at 10 a.m. Once again, the service will have a hybrid format, some congregants in the synagogue, while the service will be streamed as well via the usual YouTube link. In a moment, we will conclude the service with the singing of Yigdal on page 628, but at this stage, let me please pronounce the Hamotzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
I had the privilege of spending not enough time with all of the other rabbinic leadership in South Africa at our annual Kala over the past couple of days. And I want to say how continuously impressed and delighted I am with the thoughtfulness and the care that our movement approaches all issues. I think we've come up with some, I did my best to advise from where I am, but really trying to steep ourselves in what is needed by the community. And so in our blessing tonight, I not only want to bless you, but I want to extend a special blessing to my colleagues for their great care and concern for everything that pertains to the holiness of our community. Yevarechechem Adonai v'yishmerechem. May God bless you and keep you from harm. Ya'er Adonai panechem v'chunekem. May God reach out to you and bring holiness into your life. Yisa Adonai panav elechem ve'asem lachem shalom. May the divine infuse all of us, bring us together, lift us up, and help us to create peace in this world. Shabbat Shalom.
And now, Yigdal. Yoreh Gdulato.
Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shalom u'barach, Shabbat shalom, Shalom u'barach, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shalom.
Thank you, Adam, for singing it. They didn't write that into my speech over here.
It's hot in here. It's hot in here.
Thank you, choir.